software rival Slack complained about the company's Teams product. Microsoft will not have to pay a fine, but agreed to unbundle Teams from its suite of Office software. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
On Wall Street, the Dow is now down 77 points. The NASDAQ is up nearly 40 points. You're listening to NPR News from Washington.
This is WUNC News. I'm Naomi Brown. North Carolina Republicans vowed Thursday to take up a crime bill later this month in response to a Charlotte murder that is receiving national attention. NC Newsroom's Adam Wagner has more.
Republicans in the General Assembly are responding to last month's murder of Irina Zaruchka on a Charlotte light rail car. Senate Pro Tem Phil Berger and House Speaker Destin Hall say they will introduce a bill later this month to try to prevent similar incidents. Part of their focus is on how DeCarlos Brown Jr., the man charged with Zaruchka's murder, was free at the time of the August incident. Police charged Brown with misuse of 911 in January, and a Mecklenburg County magistrate freed him on a written promise to appear. But Brown also had 14 prior charges, including a conviction for robbery with a dangerous weapon. Hall, a Caldwell County Republican, says a Mecklenburg County magistrate should have accounted for that criminal history.
When folks come in and before a magistrate, they've been charged with a serious crime, they have a prior violent felony on their record, it simply should not even be an option to allow that person to have some sort of cashless bail. They should be held in the jail under a secured bond.
Hall also says he would like the legislature to look at how magistrates are selected and how it can have oversight over their decisions. Lawmakers are still figuring out what to include in the criminal justice bill they intend to introduce the week of September 22nd. Adam Wagner, North Carolina Newsroom, Capitol Bureau.
In college football, NC State beat Wake Forest 34-24 last night. The Wolfpack's C.J. Bailey connected with Keenan Jackson for a 12-yard go-ahead touchdown early in the fourth quarter. NC State is 3-0 for the first time since 2022. Mostly sunny today with a high near 80. Tonight, mostly clear, lows in the upper 50s. This weekend, sunny with highs in the low 80s. This is WUNC. Support comes from the Joyce Foundation, committed to advancing racial equity and economic mobility for the next generation in the Great Lakes region. Learn more at joycefdn.org. And thanks to Kathleen Williams for her leadership gift in support of WUNC programming. It's 68 in the Triangle, 69 in the Triad, 73 in Fayetteville, and 74 on the Outer Banks at 10:06.
I'm Todd Zwillick, and it's the 1A Friday News Roundup.
We will fire the Biden-Harris regime and put Donald Trump back in the White House where he belongs.
That's the voice of Charlie Kirk, a right-wing activist and political organizer who was shot dead at a college campus event in Utah on Wednesday. Kirk was 31 years old and the CEO and co-founder of Turning Point USA. They're a conservative youth organization supporting President Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. Here's President Trump speaking about Kirk and his murder in a video message on Wednesday.
That we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now.
President of the United States there, who chose this moment to further fan the flames of division and blame, even while other leaders, Republican, Democratic, unaffiliated, tried to urge Americans to tamp those flames down. And it's important to note that the president made that statement you just heard while the identity and the motive of the shooter was unknown. We'll get the latest on the shootings right after this awful crime. In the middle of the chaos, the country for a couple of hours was not only in a state of shock, but a state of confusion and misinformation caused by the director of the FBI himself. FBI Director Kash Patel made several false claims about the status of the suspect and the case in the moment. What happened there? What was the impact?
Yeah, I mean, this is arguably Kash Patel's biggest test so far as FBI director, and in the immediate aftermath of this killing, he fell short. He announced that a suspect was in custody, and that turned out to be not the case, and it did, again, raise questions over his reliability, and critics of Kash Patel would say he's got a history of pushing conspiracy theories and false claims, and there's another step in sowing distrust in America's major institutions. And if ever there was a moment when you need reliable information, cool heads, institutions functioning properly, it's this kind, when you have a febrile atmosphere, you have huge tension. You want to be able to trust the American president, the FBI director, and unfortunately, Kash Patel did the opposite there.
Well, speaking of an environment of misinformation, disinformation, division, and chaos, which is what we were in, officials in a press conference last night talking about misinformation on social media specifically and urging Americans to be on alert.
What we're seeing is our adversaries want violence. We have bots from Russia, China, all over the world that are trying to instill disinformation and encourage violence. I would encourage you to ignore those.
David, what do we know about what we're hearing there? Warnings that China, Russia use moments of crisis like this to try to divide Americans even further than they already are.
Yeah, I think we've seen that over the past decade. Notoriously, of course, in the 2016 election, when Russia had a field day on social media spreading disinformation. And, we hear endless debates about were they backing Donald Trump or not. But what you often hear intelligence sources say is that really the primary purpose here is just to sow division and distrust and set Americans against each other. And